So if you could describe your experience in Amway and LTD with one word, what would that one word be?
Manipulation.
Dang.
And I feel like everyone's doing it to everybody and like they know that they're doing it and it's kind of like wild to think about.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal. If you're new here, welcome. This is my channel where I talk about my experiences while I was in an MLM called Amway. I got into Amway through an AMO called LTD, and I've just been sharing my experience and kind of warning others as to what they'll be getting into if they decide to join or do something like this. I've been meeting some really great people who are also in the same boat as me in LTD or Burt Worldwide, and I've been able to interview them and talk to them about their experience. And a lot of us have had the same experience. Coincidence. Today I get to talk to Abba, who was actually in for about 5 months up in Canada. He was sponsored when he was 19. He has an interesting perspective from his point of view, especially someone who was kind of younger and being sponsored. So sit back, enjoy the interview, and I'll come back afterwards for more information on how to file a complaint against your AMO or next videos to come. Thanks and enjoy. Hey, Abba, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for contacting me via email and just sharing a little bit of your story with me. We're happy to have you, and we're happy to have you share your story with everybody that's watching. How are you today?
Everything's going great. What about you?
Doing good, doing really good. So I know you shared a little bit about me in the email about what you've kind of gone through and your feelings about Amway and towards your AMO. So if you can, I guess, just
Mhm.
introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what got you started, how long you've been in, things like that.
Mhm. So I'm from Edmonton, Alberta. I graduated high school in 2022 and then I moved to Winnipeg, Manitoba to start my post-secondary basketball career in university. So after I made the move, I was kind of like isolated. I was a high school kid who like didn't really know what was going on in his life. Like I didn't really have a great direction. I was in school and I was playing basketball and I knew I loved those two things, but I needed like I needed money. Like I needed to find ways to make money to support myself because I didn't come from a lot of money and my parents weren't really supporting me while I was out in Winnipeg. And for those who know Canada, like Winnipeg and Edmonton are about like 13 hours apart. So it's like quite a long like distance. So once I was in Winnipeg, like I started working a morning job at Walmart. Like it was the only hours I could work from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. And from then it was like I'd wake up at 4 a.m., start my day, go to work, do my school, do my classes, and then have practice, work out, and then I'd get home at like 9 p.m. and I'd be super tired, super fatigued, and like I would just be tired and like I'd be like done with this lifestyle. Like it just felt like every day was like a repeat and I was tired of like what I was getting myself into. And I just felt like there had to be more to life than just working up every single day. And it's not like I was making a lot of money too. Like I was making about $14 an hour, waking up at 5 a.m. And I kind of wanted like an excuse to quit working. So around like November, I had a coworker like send me a snap. Like he sent me like a text and then he's like, hey, like he started asking me some questions. He's like, hey, like what are you up to? Like starting the conversation. And then he dropped the message about like how he got like how he got connected to some really successful like business owners, mentors that are helping him create passive income. And
Mhm.
for me, like I was making like $14. Like I really wanted like an escape. Like I was working labor, so I kind of wanted something like easier on my body, on my schedule, something I could just like kind of like relax and learn how to like make money with my mind and my words rather than like my hands and my back. And yeah, so he told me about like what he got connected to, and he told me like he would get me connected with his mentor if I was interested. But he worded it in a way to make it seem like he was doing me a favor, because I feel
Yeah.
like they have a language that they use to like honestly kind of manipulate you into making it seem like you need them more than they need you. So, and I kind of bought it like at first, like I didn't really know what was going on. I was like, yeah, like this guy's like the greatest. Like this guy's such an amazing guy for giving me this opportunity. And he was a former coworker. Like I used to work with him at like a daycare, and he was like the popular guy. He was the guy that everyone loved. Everyone loved being around. So yeah, he was that type of guy. And yeah, I guess that's how I first got like connected to like the business and how I first got like introduced and where my life was before then. Because I was just looking for any opportunity. Because over the summer, like, do you ever see those videos on like TikTok or like Instagram where it's like, click this link to learn how to make this amount of money like passively, and then like you always wonder like maybe it's too good to be true, maybe it'll help me, maybe it's like, and I felt like I kept ignoring those. So then maybe I felt like it was God's sign of like finally putting something to me that I can actually use to make money.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So you were in Canada, um, and the guy that sponsored you, what AMO was he a part of?
He was
Was it,
LTD.
oh, so it was LTD. Okay, and then I guess let's back up a little bit. So you met him, he drops a message to you, and you're like excited because you're like, wow, this could be something that's
Mhm.
really could really take you somewhere because you're just really tired of living a life that you were living, like basically running the hamster wheel. So after he does all that, what happens? Like, how did you get in? Did you actually meet the mentor? I guess take us to the next step after he dropped the message and you decided to actually talk to him.
So we had like a meeting. They call it like a vetting process, and like they take you through a couple meetings. Like they introduce you to like I guess the big boss, and you're in like a group. Like I guess it's like a QI, like a quality interview. And
Mhm.
I was in the QI, like they're asking me a bunch of questions. Like he was basically like, I guess telling me what I wanted to hear about like how like they asked me what my goal was and what I wanted, and I said I wanted like financial freedom to retire my parents. And they're like, hey, like we can like what they do is I feel like they sell you on the dream early,
Yeah.
and like they made me write down like what I wanted, and they're like, hey, every time like you feel like you're not putting a lot you're all into the business, or every time you're like struggling, like just look at your why, and then it'll keep you going. Which is I felt like in theory it made sense, but then also like it's kind of like brainwashing you in a sense, like hey, like if I quit this then I can never retire my parents, or if I don't go to this meeting then I'm selling myself short, or my business will never grow. And yeah, like we had like I was going through the process, like I met like the team, like I remember I went to my first meeting and like I felt really excited, but like it was in like someone's living room and a bunch of people were there, and there's like an Edmonton team and there's a bigger Toronto team, and like we joined their live conference like, every Thursday, like every other Thursday.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like the first interview went okay. Like the first time I went there, like while I was in the process, like I was kind of like excited, like you're the new person, everyone kind of like is really nice to you, everyone's like opening up to you, treating you really well. And then as after that, it seems like it kind of fades off. Like once it's not new anymore, once it's like regular, I feel like everyone starts like kind of forgets about you and like leaves you off to dry. Like if you, for example, like if you don't show up to a meeting, like your bosses might like your upline might care, but then like the people like that your acquaintances might not. Like it kind of just seems like nobody's actually like friends with anybody. Everyone's just kind of like using each other in a way, which
Yeah.
like kind of like messed up. And I didn't like how they would be dragged on for so long, because I would work like when I like came back to Edmonton, like I would work from like 8 to 4:30, and the meeting would be from like 6 to 10:30, like on Thursdays. So then it would be like, what are we doing for 4.5 hours? Like we might be on like a live for like 3 hours and like talking for like an hour and a half, and then I think like it's 4.5 hours every like other Thursday just to listen to the same things, hear the same people talk about the same things. And like it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, what am I like? I'd be already like fatigued from work. So then I'd wonder like, what am I really doing? Like what's is this the best way to use this time?
I completely agree with you. And I want to back up a little bit because
Okay.
you said that you met the team. How old were you when you actually got sponsored, and what year was this?
It was December 2022 and I was 19.
So I think that
Mhm.
that's interesting because everything you say, I agree with. The minute you get
Mhm.
in, you're like this new shiny thing. Everyone loves you. There's all this love
Uh-huh.
bombing. They make you feel like you're so welcome, but that's just kind of a tactic to get you to
For
really
sure.
stay and to give your all.
Hmm.
So I think what you're saying is really important because I remember I had an upline who was just like really that's all she did. Like the minute you started, you were like, "Oh, that's my girl. That's my best friend." Girl, I don't even know you. How am I your best friend? You know what I'm saying? So
Uh-huh.
it was stuff like that. That if you thought about it in the moment, it was like, "This doesn't make any sense." But looking back,
Mhm.
I think it was just all tactic to get you to stay and to get you to put forth all your energy and your effort. But with you, I think we kind of were similar because I had a lot on my plate too. So by the time we got
Mhm.
to these meetings, we called them network nights. I was like,
Okay.
"Why are we on here for 3 hours and 4 hours? Like, what are we talking about? Why are we doing
Uh-huh.
this?"
For
Like,
sure.
I thought it was just really I don't want to say silly, but it was extensive. And that
For
was
sure.
one of the things that led me to think like I need to find something else to do.
Yeah.
So how long were you in? And I guess kind of what made you stay in for as long as you were in?
I was in from December 2022 to July 2023. And I guess like the reason that I stayed was the person that sponsored me, like we became like really tight while we were in the business. And I felt like he wouldn't do me wrong in a sense. Like I kept not wanting to believe that he was gonna like, I guess like do anything to hurt me or do anything to like set me back like financially. I thought he was only trying to help me. And I would like to say he seems like a good guy and everything, but then like once I started to feel like I guess it wasn't helping me or he might not have had my best interest in mind, that's when I started to feel like it wasn't something I wanted to do long term. And like the biggest red flag for me was I told you this in the beginning, in like the first interview, was I was with my girlfriend and it was her last day in the city before she left to like her vacation. And we had a Thursday night, so then like a network night. And then I told them like, hey, I'm not gonna come to the network night. I'm gonna hang out with her. And then they made it seem like it was the end of the world or like the biggest thing or like my business was gonna be set back like X amount of months just because I didn't go to that one Thursday night. And I'm like, I came to every single Thursday night besides this, and you're gonna make it seem like something's gonna happen. Like there's bigger priorities. Like there has to be bigger priorities. Like this business isn't the end all be all in my life. Yeah, the business isn't the end all be all in my life. And then like once they started to make it seem like inhumane in a sense, like then I started to like really question it and say like, yeah, this is like my fallout. Like this is where like I'm slowly gonna detach myself, and eventually like I just walked away because like I sponsored a few people too. So then I didn't like I knew what they were doing to me, and I really didn't want them to like keep going forward with it too. So then I told them like, hey, like I love you guys, but like this, like if we put this energy into something else, we're all gonna be so much further.
I really like the word you use. You said that you felt like it was inhumane. Can you kind of
Hmm.
elaborate on that a little bit? Like what things made you felt like it was inhumane?
Like spending like a few hours, like I feel like time is like the most important thing in the world because like it's something that you can't buy. It's something you can't go back in time, and like certain things are like more like have hold more priority than others, especially like given like the time scenario. Like for example, if it's somebody's last day in the city and it's the last time you're going to be seeing them, especially if they mean like so much to you, then like obviously they're going to take precedence over something that happens like once every 2 weeks. Especially if the thing that happens every like once every 2 weeks is kind of like to a fault. It's kind of so like I started feeling like, hey, like even if it was like something important, like even if the Thursday nights were like the most beneficial thing in the world, it being her last day was kind of like it made me like it's just so much more important to like spend that with her than like go with them. And the part of like it being inhumane is like if you're not understanding like people's feelings, people's emotions, like people like wanting to prioritize like their loved ones over like a side hustle, then like how are you gonna or like putting people down for making those decisions for themselves and like wanting to control what they do. Like I just didn't like love that. I felt like it was like degrading in a sense.
Absolutely. So can you talk about how your girlfriend felt about all this? Like, did she um watch you go to all these meetings? Did you get a chance to spend time with her? Can you talk a little bit about that relationship while you were in the business?
Oh, like part of me being in the business was I was working, but I wanted to like grow financially because she was a really feminine girl. Like she's amazing, but like I wanted to be the guy that like provides for her. Like I didn't want her to like like I wanted to be like I guess a masculine guy. So then I wanted to think about how I could make the most amount of money for like me and her and like my family going forward. So that's another thing that helped me like that wanted me like that I wanted to like go forward with the business was I wanted to build something going forward because what they made it seem like was like once you go platinum, you'll get like 50 to 70 an extra 50 to $70,000 per year just coming to you. And they made it seem like once you hit it, like there was no work afterwards, which is like a lot of like brainwashing in a sense. But like going back to the topic, it was just like it was about me wanting to like I guess set myself up the best I could financially for the future so I could like provide for us. And yeah, like we were both young. Like I was 19, she was 20. Like she's in nursing school. Like
Okay.
that's how it was. And she was really supportive of the idea of it. Like I told her like what my goals were and what I wanted to do, and yeah, she was really supportive about it. Like she bought some of the products, like she bought
Okay.
like the makeup and everything, and it was all support at the end of the day. Like and like when I told her like I was done with it, like she supported that too.
Okay, cool. So I was gonna ask, did you ever sponsor her? Did she ever consider joining, or was that never on the plate for her?
My like upline wanted me to like spot just because they just want you to like sponsor as many people as you can. So like once I told them like there was like a girl in the picture, like they're like, oh, you should sponsor her because one of my upline had like him and his wife were like really big in the business together, and they were like selling me on the idea that like this could be you guys X amount of years from now, and I'm like I don't know, I felt like she was really busy with herself, like she had a lot on her plate, and I just didn't want to like put that on her, especially because I knew like it was kind of faulty to a sense that I didn't want her to like go through that herself.
At this point, I'm thinking that it must be standard practice that if you are dating someone or married, they want you to get your like person in there with
Uh-huh,
you. Because when I
for
got
sure.
engaged, one of my uplines was like, "Oh, we should meet him, show him the plan." And I was like, "Girl, he's good. Like he does not want to do this." So I
Yeah.
think that I know they want more people in, but I think it's inappropriate to try to make you,
Hmm.
especially like if, because I met my husband while I was in, like we got
Uh-huh.
engaged in, we weren't dating before.
Uh-huh.
So I was kind of like, I'll talk to him about it, but I didn't want him to have any pressure. He didn't. He was like, "Girl, I'm good. I'm not doing that." But my
Uh-huh.
uplines were kind of like, "Oh, well, no, we should meet him." And it took us to dinner to try to convince him to do all this stuff. At the end of the day, it was just
Yeah.
I realized it was all tactic, and I was like, "Why don't
Hmm.
you leave people alone? Let them choose for themselves." So,
Yeah.
kudos to y'all for kind of realizing like what y'all wanted to do, and for her
Hmm.
being like never felt pressure to join or anything like that.
Yeah.
So going back to when you said you sponsored some people, can you tell me
Mhm.
about that experience for you? How many folks did you end up sponsoring?
I sponsored three legs, so like three different people. And
Okay.
like I took a bunch of people, like what they try to do is like they try to get you to get 4 QIs within every 2 week period between every like network session.
Mhm.
And like it's hard to get a QI because like you drop the message like to somebody, like it could be a friend, someone you meet at like the mall, like a coworker, and like you basically sell them on the idea that like, hey, I just met these successful people, like they showed me how to make passive income. Like, is that something you'd be interested in? And then like you connect the two, and then you set like a meeting, and then if that goes well, like you start the process, like, and then you go through so many QIs before you're able to like really sponsor somebody. It's kind of crazy. Like for me, like for about like 6 months, I had like 5, 6 QIs every 2 weeks, and I only sponsored three people. So it's like me like talking like the hundreds of people over the process, and like I only sponsored three people, which is kind of, and they were like my three like close friends, and like they only did it because they saw like how much I was putting it and how putting into it, how serious I was to it, and they kind of like they thought it was like valid. Like they're like they want, like I sold them on the idea of like us being able to like get rich together as friends and like build something together going forward, and like this is what they talk about in like documentaries and like sitting in a podcast. Like I
Right.
basically like about that, like, and like they were all like sold on that idea, so that's how we all got started.
Wow. Um, I just think that it's funny. And I think thinking about it now, they really should be flagged for this because that was how they taught us to do it. At one point I was
Mhm.
doing like, I think 4 QIs a week. And
Uh-huh.
they were saying that when you do that many a week, you should be able to sponsor, so many people, but it never always worked out that way.
Hmm.
Sometimes you'll have a QI and people don't show up, and for us, you couldn't do QI2 unless you had read the book that we had told you to
Yeah,
read.
yeah,
So if you didn't read the book, we couldn't go forward with the QI2. So it was just like there were so many moving parts, and it was almost like you can't guarantee that you're going to sponsor somebody. You can talk
yeah.
to a bunch of people, but you can't guarantee anything. And then I know for me, well, for the team I was on, if I talked to somebody that was married, the spouse had to come with them. So I would meet a lot of
Hmm.
ladies like when I would network who were married, but they were like, "Well, I just want to do it." They didn't necessarily want their husband to do it, or they didn't think that he needed to do it. And I was like, "Well, I didn't see anything wrong with that because there was married people on my team that didn't have their spouses with them." But it was
Hmm.
like I couldn't move forward unless their spouse was there, and I was like, "Okay, this doesn't make any sense to me." So that's something that they really should be like targeted
Hmm.
for because it's like you're false advertising to people. And then like you said, you're selling somebody your dream
Hmm.
and the dream is fake because the minute you get in and realize that the stuff isn't working, it's like, what are we doing
For
here?
sure.
How did
Yeah,
your
like out of the people, all the people that are in like the Amway LTD like business, like maybe 0.1% of them actually like research like it's like their start dream, and like everyone else is kind of like pawns that are used to like feed that 0.1%, and like they're just kind of moving parts because one person will leave and they'll get another person to replace them, and it's just like a cycle because all the people that start out have dreams, but then how few people actually like reach them. or even profit for that matter. Like most people like end up losing like a crazy amount of money just from the business.
Absolutely. And I like the word you use, pawn.
Uh-huh.
When it came to your three legs, did you feel like they were pawns? Did you feel like you were a pawn? Like, how did your three legs evolve? Did they sponsor people? And how long did they stay in?
They stayed in, like I sponsored them around like April, and then so we all stayed in for like once to the point I sponsored all three of them. Like it was around April to like July, and I didn't necessarily think of them as pawns 'cause at the time. Like I really like it was fresh out of conference, and I kind of like my mind was kind of like motivated. So now I was like, hey, like I need to get on my I need to get this some stuff done, and then like I sponsored them, and I really believed in the business at that time. Like as much as like I guess I saw some red flags, like I really did believe in like the potential and like you obviously you hear like the really successful people talk and you're like, hey, like I can be like them. Like they're human, I'm human. Like what are they doing that I'm not? Like I can do this in X amount of years. And I really wanted to like all succeed as a friend group because like growing up, like we all grew up in like this neighborhood in like Southeast Edmonton and like we all didn't come from money. So like the idea of like all of us, we we're all like best friends. So like the idea of all of us like making money together and getting successful together like really like resonated with us and like it was something we were really like passionate about and it's
Yeah.
like we talked about that as kids too so it was easy to
Oh,
get those on board.
yeah. So like it was kind of like you thought it was your dream, like I guess manifesting because like you said with the guys on the podcast that grew up together and they're like making all this
Yeah,
money, you thought that could be y'all. Oh
yeah,
man.
for sure.
So did any of them sponsor anybody?
No, they didn't. They put some guys through like the process and had like some QIs, but they didn't end up sponsoring anybody.
Yeah. When you left, did they leave or how did they feel when you left? Did you talk to them? How did that go?
When I left, I kind of got them to leave too, because then I started like really opening up about like the secrets and like the stuff they didn't know and like I because I was like I guess I was pissed off at like that like my upline, so I really wanted to like get them back by like removing my legs.
So how did they react to all the things you were telling them, all the secrets and all that stuff?
Like they were like they were kind of like shocked, like their eyes open. And I was like, bro, like if we put this energy into something else, like we'll be so much better down the line. Like we'll have so much like we could be successful without them. Like we could do like we could be our own boss. Like I was telling them on like the idea of like putting something like our time into our own thing, while also telling them like how like I guess dirty the business kind of is and like what I've seen, like what like transpires, like that they don't know, like basically all of that sort of stuff, and how it's like I guess like I said earlier, like inhumane, and then like we all kind of dropped it at the same time.
Yeah. So when you all drop it at the same time, how did your sponsor take it? How did your uplines take it?
He called me and then he's like, hey, like we're really sorry we're really sorry like you dropped out, and like but the way he made it seem like he didn't even like he made it seem like he didn't feel bad in a sense. Like it's not like he said like we enjoyed our time with you. I hope you have the best in like your futures. Like he made it seem like he didn't like I guess necessarily need us, and he's like, hey, like it's something that was on our mind too, so it's like a mutual thing. And I'm like, bro, like I was like a 250 like a 250 PV person like myself. Like they were in like the 150s. Like we were like really compared to most. Like we were like low key running it up. And I'm like, bro, like if I wanted to stay, you guys would love to have had me to stay. Like, why are you saying that? But it was just part of the manipulation because he wanted to like, I guess it's pride. Like, I guess like, especially because he was like a black man, and like I find most black men have like a really big ego. So he didn't want to admit that like, I guess I was like, I guess a decent like a big part of his one of his legs. So he made it seem like it was just nothing that I walked away. And he didn't like say anything like respectful in a sense. It's not like I enjoyed the time I had with you. Like I hope the best for you in your future. Like thank you for the time we spent together. Like nothing. Like it was just like, yeah, we've been thinking about it too. Like I know like it's just like, bro, come on.
He's been thinking about it too. What does that mean? Like he was gonna kick you out? Like what do you mean he's been thinking about it too? What does that
That's
even
what
mean?
I did. That's what I thought too. Like I remember I was in like the car and I was driving somewhere. Then he called me. And then I was like listening to him and I was like you can't be serious. Like because he was telling me all like a week ago, he was telling me about like the plans he had for me and what he saw in my future and how I had all this potential. And then like a week later, you're like, oh, like I would like it's not just something that's like it's not just you who felt that way. Like we were thinking about that with you, and I'm like, bro, like there's no way because most people within their first like 6 months don't would get as far as I did. So then
Right.
the
Correct.
logic isn't logicking.
That's correct. That's wild that he had the nerve to say that to you, but I guess you're right. It may have been just him being like actually hurt because you're probably one of his biggest legs, I imagine, right?
Yeah, especially like for the Edmonton side of things, like I grew really, really fast compared to most. Like there was guys that were in the business for like 2 years and like maybe have had like one leg or like two legs and like still like struggling to hit 150 PV.
We were thinking, okay, how much time did you think you spent on products, traveling, networking, QIs? How much time do you think you spent doing all those things when you were in?
Like per week.
Yeah.
I want to say like 12 to 15 hours per week.
Hmm.
And it would be like some guys would like go after work to like the mall and to like network and like talk to people. But like what I did, like I was an athlete, like I played basketball. So like when I'd go to like team practices or like a rec center or like a YMCA, I'd always like take like an energy drink or something with me for like the product side of things. And I would try to like sell it to people in a sense, like, hey, like I use this, it has zero sugar, it's really good for you, good for athletes. Like this brand sponsors like X amount of athletes, pro athletes, like all this stuff. Like try to like sell them on the product. But what made it hard was like the products was like really overpriced and the shipping was also really expensive to like where we were. So then it's like to get one like a 12 pack of energy drinks, you'd pay like $33, but you'd also pay $14 of shipping. So then it would be like $50 damn near for a 12 pack of energy drink. And it's like, how many young people have that kind of money to spend on energy drinks or like even protein bars? Like it'd be 12 protein bars for like $45 plus the shipping. Then you'd be like, hey, it's like $60 just for 12 protein bars when they can go to Costco and get like 20 protein bars for like $15.
Yep. I
So
completely
then,
agree.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I can't even imagine the makeup side of things. I'm like, it had to have been like really expensive, but I was mainly like specializing in like I guess the sports nutrition, energy drinks, like the food, like that type of stuff. Cause I guess it was something I was really familiar with and like I could really like that's what I had that's what was around me. Like the people around me were interested in like those kind of things. And it was just like easier for me to like sell. And they told you to kind of like get the products out to like your close friends, your family, like talk to those people, but like you're basically ripping off the people around you and they're doing it out of like love. Like they're like, oh, like I care about you, so I'll buy it for you. But like deep down, like in their head, they're like, I could get this same, like I could get a replacement or like an alternative for like damn near half price elsewhere. And yeah, it was rough because for me to hit like the 250 PV, like 300 mark, it's like I had to do my ditto, and then I also had to like I guess like rip a bunch of people off, and like also like in myself like lose money too, because like there's like times like where like someone would tell me like if you bought it on your IBO account versus like on a customer account, it would be cheaper. So like for some of my friends, I would like or like people I'd meet, I tell them like, hey, like just send me this amount of money, and then like I'll buy it for you on my account, and I'll just deliver it to you, so you save on shipping, especially if they're just gonna buy one product. And I would do that. Like I would like tell them and they send me the money and then like the product would come and then like they'd be like, hey, like I don't want the product anymore. Or like, hey, like my money's kind of tight right now. Can like I refund this? And I'm like, bro, like I said yes, but like in my head, I'm like, bro, what the so then I guess like I lost money in that sense to the products of like trying to make people's lives easier. And what they told you was like, hey, we're really competitive per price, like per product, we're really like competitive with other brands, other type of things, and like the quality makes it so much better. And like if people can't afford it, like sell it to people who are like working higher paying jobs. And it's like, how often are you just gonna like walk somewhere and like run into like a doctor that's willing to just spend $200 on like products? It's like,
yeah, I completely agree because they had such unrealistic expectations of those products. They were overpriced. And I
mhm,
really appreciated everybody that bought from me because I was like, I know, like you said, you can go down the street and buy it from Walmart or wherever at a fraction of the price. I had one customer that was like, I love those bars, but I cannot justify spending like $20 for a box of bars when I can go
mhm.
down the street and get it for, $3 or $4.
Yeah,
So they always used to do product parties, but I was ashamed at one point to sell that stuff because it was
for
just so
sure.
easy. You know what I mean? Like, what did it look like selling this stuff to you? And we weren't
Yeah,
making much of a profit when we were selling that stuff anyway.
yeah. Like in a sense, like with the products, you'd kind of like lose money. Like the only way to like really grow, because you have to get past certain like milestones to get more like percentage multipliers. So it's like 300 PV, 600, 900. And like obviously like you couldn't do all that yourself, so you have to build a team. So you build a team to try to get the PV up, but then it's like you're relying on other people and you're kind of like, I guess, guilt tripping other people to get their PV up just so you can succeed. And it just kind of sucks. Like, I guess, like biting people, like, I guess, like getting on, being on people's trying to like get like, I know, bugging people in a sense. Cause like you never know what people are going through. Maybe people are having like a down month. Maybe they're going through like some family stuff and like you're just kind of like pinching them in the back, trying to get them to like sell stuff so you can make money. And
Yeah.
it's really like, I feel like, and I really didn't like the sampling. Like sampling, I felt like was like one of the dumber things like I've ever seen. Cause like, especially with the energy drinks, like you get a 12 pack, and then what I do is like I had like six other coworkers. So then I would bring my 12 pack to like work, and like I'd spend like $27 on the 12 pack of energy drinks, and
Mhm.
then like I'd sample it to my coworkers, and then like I would give them each one. So then it would be like half of my like $30 I spent on energy drinks, and like if they don't buy any, like you lose that whole like you it was out of your pocket. Like you're sampling stuff that you paid for, and it's just like it just feels like there's so many ways to lose money, and like it's so rare to even like profit, break even, any of that stuff. That it's with the products, it's like you lose so much money, and you wonder like at some point like you get ripped off for like 3 months. You're like, I guess you kind of take it for 6 months. It's kind of like, oh, it's on your mind. But the people who stay in for like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, like it makes me wonder like at what point do they start to think like, hey, I'm getting ripped off, like how come like they can't see it? And that's why I really feel bad for it, because like for me, like I felt like I was like, I guess like a gullible person for staying in for like 6 months, but like the people who stay in for like even longer, it's like I wonder what their why is, because their why has to have been had to have been like so much stronger.
So you said you felt like you were gullible for staying in for that long. I feel like I don't know if you were gullible. I feel like maybe you had dreams and ambitions and you were sold a dream. So you thought that
Hmm.
you could accomplish your goals through Amway. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like you were gullible because I was talking to another friend of mine and she was like, are we dumb? Are we gullible? And I was like, I don't think that we're gullible. We were just ambitious. It was just the wrong
Hmm.
thing to do, you know?
For sure. I feel like they hit you at the right time, like once you when like they got you super hyped up, and then like you put all that energy into like I guess a lost cause.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So let's talk a little bit about conference.
Okay.
How many conferences did you go to and how was the experience for you?
So I think a conference was every 3 months. So in January, I didn't go to that conference because I was still in the process.
Mhm.
In April, I went to that conference, but I went online because the conference in April was from April 14 to 16. And I was in Winnipeg because I still had school and my final exam was on the 19th. So part of like what pissed me off was like they were trying to get me to go to Edmonton for the conference days and then come back for my final. But I'm like it doesn't make sense because why would I drive 12 hours to just to go there, like stay for conference, drive back, do my final exam, and then drive back all the way again? It's like it just didn't make sense. So I'm like, I'm gonna do the conference online. It just works better for me. And they're like, hey, like no, it's not the same. Like you be around the team, it'll just help you grow so much more. And yeah, it just kind of it didn't really sit right with me. And now I guess that was one of my red flags. And even if they like when I like another thing that kind of like pissed me off is like they said like if you drive here, don't stay with your family in Edmonton. Like get a hotel so you could stay with us. And I'm like I didn't even under like at that point I was like really shocked. Like I was lost. I was like, really, huh? Like why would I drive all the way there just to like stay in a hotel when I'm in my own city? It just didn't make sense at all. And apparently they're like they sell you on all these words about like being around the team, like networking with people from other places, like all these things. But it just all felt like a bunch of like way like I all just felt like kind of like a bunch of things lined up so that they could profit because I'm sure like they were working with the venue and like they like the venue made like they made money off of everything like off the speakers, off the tickets, off like the hotels. Like it all felt like a partnership to kind of you over.
Yeah, I when I realized that, I was like, what am I paying for? It was when because I joined during the pandemic and we had
Hmm.
conferences online. I was like, why am I paying 125
Hmm.
to sit in front of my computer? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm glad
Hmm.
that it happened like that because it made it click. Like, what am I paying for? I'm just basically giving these folks my money so they can go and live their
Yeah.
lives and pay their bills. So I didn't like that. So I can agree with you on that aspect. Tell me a little bit about your experience actually leaving the business. How'd that go for you?
Once I left, it kind of felt really refreshing. Like I didn't have like to worry about meetings or like QIs, talking to people, products, like it all just felt like really easy. And like you don't really realize how much you spent on the business until you go. And then like you see like you're not paying all the subscriptions, like the LTD, like the media. And I really didn't like the media. Like I hated like the LTD like media app because like you just listen to a bunch of people like talk on a podcast and like it just felt really like it just felt like you're getting scammed in a sense because you're always hearing the same things like at the like on the media app, like at the conference, at like the network sessions, like it just all felt like a bunch of like the same thing. Like you're just spending hours listening to the same thing, which I didn't love, but yeah. So once I left, it just felt like a lot easier financially and like mentally I was so cleared up. It was just like it was like a dark cloud just like left like my head and like it was replaced by like sunshine. Like it was all like it was an amazing feeling like once I left. And yeah, like I started to like get into like other things. Like for example, like I didn't think it was a complete waste because I kind of like I was kind of introverted at the beginning of the business and like it taught me to like talk to people, talk to strangers, like sort of like sales in a sense, but I guess it's me trying to be like optimistic that it wasn't a complete zero, but it was it wasn't like the end of the world. Like I did learn some good things, but overall, like once I left, like I would like to say like my life was able to like progress because while I was in the business and like if I was working like 8 hours like in the morning, like during the day, and then I'd go to the business, like work on the business during the night, like I felt like I had no time to progress my life and like do some things I wanted to do. And like I'd have to cancel on like some friendships and meet like hang out with my friends, like doing some of the things I really wanted to do. And like once I left, like I had like all this time that I didn't have before. And yeah, it was just like it was amazing. It was just a great feeling.
Yeah. Do you still talk to anybody that was in the business before?
No, like it kind of that's also like kind of what made me realize like it was like I guess inhumane in a sense because like while you're in, they make it seem like you're their best friend or like they're your buddy and like how much they care about you, like how close you are with them, and like they really like I really believed like they were actually like my friends like while I was in the business, and then once you leave, it's like nobody really ever checks on you, like nobody ever says like, hey, how are you doing, like what are you up to now, like anything like that, like. But while you're in the business, it's like if you like for example, if you're late on like or you don't hit your PV mark, like they always hit you with the oh hey, how's it going? Blah blah blah. And then like they'll try to guilt trip you with that message, but they'll always make it seem like they're buddy, like best friends with you while you're in. And then like once you leave, it's just like it hit me hard. Once I started to real like one of the guys even unfollowed me too on Instagram, which also like once I left, which also made it like confirmed in my head that like I was one of their like pawns to like hit their platinum goal or whatever it was, which
Wow.
kind of like hit rubbed me the wrong way. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So if you could describe your experience in Amway and LTD with one word, what would that one word be?
manipulation.
Dang.
And I feel like everyone's doing it to everybody and like they know that they're doing it and it's kind of like wild to think about. And like they have like night owls too. So like what another thing that kind of like once I like I felt manipulated by the night owls and like because only like a select few people who are doing like really well could stay for the night owls and like they'd kind of make everyone that wasn't like qualified to like feel bad. And then once I hit like the PV amount to be able to stay in the night owl, I started to realize how like it really wasn't anything special. Like you're just like
Yeah.
you might have been spending 4 hours before, and now you're spending like five and a half. Just to I again like listen to the same people talk. It's just like really rubbed me the wrong way. And even in the beginning of the meetings, it's a lot of guilt tripping too because like you'll hear like they'll talk about the people that are like doing really well, people that might have sponsored somebody, people that are, hit their QI numbers, and they'll give everybody that's doing well like I guess a round of applause and like recognize them. So then like the people that didn't hit those goals feel bad and like
Yeah.
they feel pressure to like do it next time and like yeah like and like what my upline would do is like the people who would do well like they would kind of reward them in a sense like they might give them like a free energy drink or like a free bar and like everyone else kind of like is looking at them get that free thing and like kind of feeling like I guess like bad in a sense like they'll feel like sorry for themselves. That's how I felt at least like I felt like if I saw somebody get recognized and like they were being recognized and I like kind of wasn't like I'd kind of like I'd feel like hey like I want to get to that place like I want to feel like special or else I'm just gonna feel like I'm not like empowered or like I'm not like somebody.
Yeah. What advice do you give to, or would you give to anybody who wants to join the business?
Um if I guess it depends on like if you're like a really like a people's person, like if you're really good with like talking to people, you have a really big circle. Because I feel like certain people can make the business work. Like I feel like if you're really extroverted, you're really like open to like talking to strangers, like and are really like I guess good at like manipulating others, like persuasive, like then I feel like they could succeed. But it's definitely not like easy to like get past it's like there's a point I guess you have to get past, and once you get that past that point, like I feel like you potentially can succeed in the business, but like until you get to like I feel like once you have like three, four legs and then those legs have legs, then you can like I guess really progress to like higher like levels. But
Mhm.
to get to that point is really like nitty gritty, like hard work and everything. So it'd really take like a blue collar mindset of somebody that just is gonna be like nosedive, like almost like full time into the business, like 18, 20 hours a week, probably for sure. But resilience, I guess, because there's a lot of people. I don't want to like sound like a quitter, but like there's a lot of people that kind of like left early, and I guess like may have had the potential, but like left early and like I guess quit on it. So like somebody that like is willing to like really stay like tunnel vision into the business can probably like succeed.
I completely agree. So what advice do you have to give to somebody who is in but wants to get out and doesn't really know how?
Um, maybe like take like a few days like and don't go to any meetings, like just like take a few days for yourself and see how like peaceful it feels and like see how like I guess like see what life exists outside of the business is what I would say. Because once I started doing that, I started to really realize that like there's so much more to life than like Amway.
Yeah.
Like and yeah, I guess that's really it. And also like keep track of your expenses because when I was in the business, I wasn't really looking at like how much I was putting into it because I knew it would be so much that I was kind of afraid to check in a sense. Like I wouldn't like check my bank account because like I knew like my Ditto would be expensive, my like LTD membership would be expensive. Like all of it would just be like super expensive. So I wouldn't check, but like really track down your like expenses and like compare it to like how much you're making and like what potential you have in the business and like if you're even close to getting to that point. And if it doesn't make sense, then like yeah, I guess there's no like reason to stay because if you're making like $34, like $30 to $40 a month on like the business, and then you're losing like 400 or 500 every single month, like
Yeah.
then it really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think once I noticed that, I was like, what am I doing? Like, was I not thinking the whole time I was in this business? Not
Yeah,
making
for
any
sure.
money.
Like I feel like I got clouded because I was already working and I kind of like was like taking a fall on my other job just to support like this quote unquote business that like it didn't I was kind of blind to it, but then once I realized it, like it was really like I guess the icing on the cake.
Mhm. Absolutely. Do you have any last minute words you want to share with the audience or viewers?
Let me think. Especially for young people, I wanted to like because I saw like the interviews on like your account and it was mainly like older people like that were already like mid 20s, and like for me like being like someone who was like 19 and 20, like a younger person,
Mhm.
like I guess like if something seems too good to be true, then I feel like it probably is. And like one thing they told us is like once you're in the vetting process, like about like not going like not don't watch any YouTube videos on Amway, don't go on like Reddit and like search it like because it has a bad reputation obviously, and like they want you to kind of like be blind to like the red flags in a sense. So like having like a clear mind and like having like like a stable thought process and like maybe talking to people who are in the business is like really important for like younger people because I feel like we're the ones that kind of like see like things that are like quote unquote too good to be true and then like fall in love with it or get really excited about it and like become really passionate. So yeah, I guess like really like thinking things through, like seeing through the red flags and just like being smart about your decisions, whether that's in the business or like elsewhere as well.
That's awesome. Thank
For
you
sure.
so much for your time, Abba. I really
For sure.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching that interview with Abba. Let me know what your comments are below, especially seeing as how he was 19 years old when he was in and the things that he kind of went through. Also, thank you to everybody that's been emailing me and sharing their stories with me, updates on where they are now. A lot of people have left their AMOs. A lot of people have shared videos to their friends who are in, and it's actually been making a difference. So thank you to all who have been sharing, commenting, liking, and just also I've been praying for those that are in, that their eyes would be open. Because you know, if you try to talk to somebody who is actually in one of these MLMs, you know, when you're in, you're brainwashed, you can't tell them nothing. So it's been really good to hear people that have been able to leave. So thanks to everybody that's been sharing the videos. If you want to leave a complaint or file a complaint with the FTC, I've linked the link below as per usual. I do think that it's making a difference. If we continue to complain about these AMOs, I think that we will see a lot of them get shut down soon. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.